What's the hottest moment you've been in? Story 1. So, the other night something crazy happened. My girlfriend had a couple too many drinks, and things took a turn I honestly didn't see coming. We were just hanging out, her best friend, and me. There was some playful teasing, a little flirting, and yeah, wine was definitely involved. Next thing I know, things escalated fast. Her best friend and her were suddenly way more forward than usual. Let's just say they were both extremely eager, and there was no hesitation. It was wild, completely unplanned, and something I never thought would actually happen. The next morning, my girlfriend was crystal clear about one thing. It only happened because she was tipsy and because it was her best friend. According to her, that was a one-time thing, a rare exception. Everyone else? Totally off limits. Now here's where it gets interesting. She's been out of town at a work conference the past few days, and this morning I get a random text from another one of her friends. She says, "Hey, I left some stuff at your place the other night. Mind if I come by and grab it?" I said, "Sure, no problem," but something about it just feels off. I can't help but think that maybe, just maybe, word got around to the rest of the group. And honestly, if she shows up, starts acting a little flirty, hangs around longer than she needs to, and gives me that look, man, I don't know if I'll be able to play it cool. Story 2. So this all started back in 2023. I got a message out of the blue from a married couple who said they'd heard about me through some mutual acquaintances. They mentioned they were open-minded and exploring some different dynamics in their relationship, and they wanted to meet up and chat. Before anything happened, we decided to keep it respectful and responsible. We met up for coffee first just to talk. To set expectations, boundaries, and just get a feel for each other. That conversation went smoothly, and we all clicked right away. Fast forward to our first real meeting, and wow, his wife had this energy, confidence, and presence that was just next level. We connected instantly, and everything just flowed naturally between us. What stood out, though, was how supportive the husband was throughout. There was no weird energy, just open communication and understanding. Now, here's where things took an unexpected turn. It was playoff season in the NBA, and I had plans to leave early that night to catch a game. When I mentioned it, they both got excited and said, "No way, we've got tickets too." So we all ended up going together. After the game, I offered for them to crash at my place since I live close to the arena. And yeah, we had an even better time just hanging out afterward. Since then, our connection grew into a real friendship. Last year, they even moved a few blocks away from me. The husband and I get along great. We talk hoops, hang out often, and he's genuinely one of the most easygoing, supportive people I know. He's always making sure his wife and I are comfortable around each other, and even encourages us to spend quality time together. It's definitely not the kind of friendship I expected to build, but it's been one of the most real and respectful connections I've experienced. Life's wild sometimes. Story 3. So last Halloween, I went full send with my costume. I dressed up in this bold French-made outfit. Think tiny black skirt, lacy top, and, well, let's just say the accessories were extra. I was definitely feeling myself that night. The party was wild, packed with people, music blasting, drinks flowing. I got a little tipsy and started dancing with this guy dressed as the Joker. He was in full character, and things got a little intense on the dance floor. We were grinding, laughing, and then he whispered something in my ear that made me blush harder than I expected. Next thing I know, we sneak off to the bathroom. I won't get into the graphic details, but let's just say things escalated real fast. Let's just say that bathroom mirror saw more action than it was probably designed for. And Joker? Yeah, he wasn't the only masked character who made an appearance that night. Michael Myers showed up next, mask on, silent, and very intentional. The vibe was surreal. It was like being in a scene from a movie, but with a plot twist I definitely didn't see coming. It was wild, chaotic, and somehow thrilling in all the wrong and right ways. By the end of the night, I had my costume half torn, makeup smudged, and a grin I couldn't wipe off if I tried. I walked back into the party like nothing happened, even though I could feel eyes on me. People definitely had questions, but no one asked. And I didn't offer any answers. Let's just say, the host made sure I got the full tour of the house before the night was over. Basement included. Moral of the story? Halloween isn't just for candy. Story 4. I was chatting with someone on Reddit, just casually, and somehow it turned into a dare. He challenged me to go to the gym without a bra. Normally, I wear a full workout set, sports bra, shorts, the usual. But this time, I went with just a fitted tank top and joggers. Now for context, I'm a 34D, and let's just say, it was obvious I wasn't wearing a bra. And yeah, if you know, I've got piercings. So when I walked in, I could instantly feel the energy shift. Some guys tried to be subtle about it, others, not so much. I caught more than a few lingering glances, and even a couple awkward reactions from dudes clearly trying not to stare. I kept my head down and focused on my workout, but internally, I was kind of buzzing. I didn't expect it to feel that intense. I filmed a few clips, nothing crazy, just to prove to the Reddit thread that I actually followed through with the dare. And honestly, I crushed my workout. I was proud of myself for stepping out of my comfort zone, even if it was a little embarrassing at first. Afterward, I hit the locker room, took a breath, and just tried to process the whole experience. It was weird, thrilling, and kind of empowering all at once. The lesson? Sometimes the dares we almost say no to are the ones that shake us up in the most unexpected way. Story 5. Okay, so here's something I've never told anyone until now. I'm 20, and I've been in a relationship for a while. My boyfriend's great, but he works a lot, so I've been spending some time at my sister's place while he's away for work. She lives with her boyfriend, and I've been crashing in the guest room. One night, I couldn't sleep. I was restless, frustrated, and just overthinking everything. I figured I'd grab some water and try to calm down. So I tiptoed downstairs in the middle of the night, wearing just one of those oversized tees and underwear. As I was bent over getting a bottle from the fridge, I suddenly heard someone behind me. It was my sister's boyfriend. He looked half asleep, kind of dazed, and I noticed he smelled like he'd had a few drinks. For a split second, the air felt heavy. Charged, even. He mumbled something under his breath and walked off like nothing happened. I just stood there, heart pounding. I don't know what I expected in that moment, but it was intense. I never brought it up, and neither did he. But the whole thing stuck with me, not because anything happened, but because it almost did. That moment has been echoing in my head ever since. I guess sometimes it's not the actions, but the tension, the what-ifs, that linger the longest. Story 6. So my wife and I have always had a pretty open-minded relationship. It's rare, but there have been a few times where she's explored things with other people, with my full support. It's not for everyone, but it works for us. One night, while we were traveling through Thailand, we decided to go out just the two of us. A real date night, no expectations, just fun. We ended up at this packed bar with live music and a big dance floor. The energy was amazing. Drinks were flowing, everyone was dancing, and the vibe felt electric. I noticed this guy across the dance floor, absolutely massive, bodybuilder-level build, checking out my wife. I nudged her and said, "You've got an admirer." She laughed, glanced over, and just said, "He's huge." Eventually, he made his way over and asked if she wanted a drink. She played it cool, didn't immediately say she was with me, and just kind of felt the moment out. When she came back to me, she admitted he'd asked if she was alone, and I told her, "If you want to dance and flirt, go for it. I actually like watching you enjoy yourself." She's always been a little hesitant when it comes to doing anything in front of me, probably worried I might say I'm fine with it and later freak out. But I've always believed in honesty and trust, so I reassured her again. They danced, they laughed, and eventually, she came over and told me he was interested. She asked, "Would you be okay if things went further?" That moment was surreal. Fantasy is one thing. Reality is another. But I said yes, with one condition. I wanted to be there. We left together, and the three of us ended up in a hotel room. It was a very raw, very real experience. Watching someone else connect with your partner like that brings up a lot of emotions, some expected, some surprising. But for us, it became a moment of honesty, vulnerability, and even connection. Afterward, the three of us parted ways. My wife and I went home, talked about everything openly, and shared how it made us feel. It wasn't just about the physical side, it was about trust, communication, and understanding each other on a deeper level. We don't live our lives by anyone else's rules, and that night, though unconventional, brought us closer in a way most people might never understand. Story 7. It's been a little over 2 weeks since that night on the couch with her. We haven't talked about it, not directly, but the tension? Yeah, it's definitely still there. Last night, my roommate, her brother, was about to head out for his weekly Garage League hockey game. Before leaving, he mentioned that his sister wanted to come by and drop off a painting. It was one of their grandmother's pieces, something she'd held onto from the estate. He asked if he should leave the spare key out or if I'd be home. I told him I'd be around, so no key needed. She showed up not long after he left. When I opened the door, She smiled at me like nothing unusual had ever happened between us. I tried to play it cool too, but it was hard to ignore the memory of that night. She was still dressed from work, blouse, skirt, tights. Professional, totally normal, but somehow it felt like everything about the outfit was designed to test my focus. She leaned the painting against the wall, and we chatted about their grandmother for a bit. But there was this pause, that kind of silence where you both know something unspoken is hanging in the air. Like the room's temperature changed, and neither of us wanted to be the first to acknowledge it. She looked at me, just held my gaze, not saying anything, and I felt this pull like the moment was daring me to move. I stepped toward her. She didn't move away. We didn't say a word. It was just this quiet, charged energy between us. It wasn't a long moment, but it was intense. We stood close. My hand brushed her waist. Her breath caught, but she didn't stop me. There was something electric about it, like we both knew we were crossing a line, but neither of us wanted to step back. Eventually we kissed. Slow, drawn out, like we were trying to remember exactly how things felt that night. Afterward, we sat on the couch and just talked. No drama, no guilt. Just two people caught in a complicated moment. She left before her brother got home. The painting's still leaning against the wall in our living room, right next to the couch, still waiting to be hung up. And maybe that's kind of fitting, honestly. Some things are meant to stay in that in-between space, unresolved but unforgettable. Story 8. Okay, this is going to sound wild, but it's 100% real. So about 2 weeks ago, something happened that flipped everything in my relationship upside down. My boyfriend had gone to the store to grab some snacks and drinks, just something casual. We were all hanging out at his place that night, and it was supposed to be chill. But while he was gone, it was just me and his best friend sitting on the couch. We were a little buzzed, laughing, talking, and then the vibe just shifted. He started telling these risky jokes, the kind that make you pause for a second and wonder if there's more to them. And I don't know what came over me, but the chemistry suddenly felt undeniable. I got closer. He didn't back off. There was this moment where everything felt like it was teetering on the edge of something we both knew was wrong, but neither of us stopped. And then, we crossed the line. It was messy, fast, intense. Something I didn't expect to happen, but also didn't stop. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. The front door opened. We both froze. My boyfriend walked in, bag in hand, and just stared at us. You could feel the shock in the room. I expected yelling, maybe even a full meltdown. But instead, he stood there, silent. Eventually, he just said something I'll never forget. So this is what it looks like. It turns out he'd had thoughts, fantasies about situations like that. Stuff he'd never voiced out loud. And while I don't think he expected it to play out like that, it opened up a conversation we never thought we'd have. Since then, things have been complicated, honest, strange, but also more real than ever. I'm not saying what happened was right, but it forced us to be brutally open about desires, trust, and the unspoken things in our relationship. Sometimes the unexpected moments reveal more than the planned ones ever could. Story 9. So recently, I downloaded this anonymous phone call app. Basically, it connects you to random people from around the world. It sounded like a fun, low-stakes way to kill time and chat with strangers. And honestly, some of the conversations have been hilarious, totally unexpected, and surprisingly deep. But then there's the other side of it. Let's just say some people aren't joining the app to talk about the weather. The number of guys who jump into it looking for something way more adult? Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. At first, it was just annoying. I'd hang up, roll my eyes, and move on. But after a few strange encounters, part of me started to get curious. Like, what draws people to this kind of anonymous, no-face interaction? And what happens when you lean into the mystery a little bit? I won't lie, it became a bit of a game. A little experiment in pushing boundaries. Hearing someone respond to just your voice, not your face, not your picture, just you, in the moment, that kind of attention hits different. You feel oddly powerful, and also kind of exposed. Story 10. This one's been sitting with me for a while. I'm 44, I've been married for almost 20 years. We've raised 3 kids, 2 are off at college now, and our youngest is still at home. Life is full, busy, and honestly, sometimes lonely in ways I didn't expect. Last weekend, my youngest had a couple of his friends over. Just a regular hangout, video games, snacks, boys being loud in the basement. Nothing out of the ordinary. I figured I had a little time to myself, so I went upstairs to take a shower. Just a quiet moment, which is rare these days. Afterward, I stood in the bathroom, towel barely clinging, steam still rising around me. And suddenly, something in me just cracked open a little. It wasn't dramatic. Just this quiet, overwhelming sense of how long it had been since I'd really felt in touch with my own body, my own needs. Not just physically, but emotionally. I leaned over the counter and looked at myself in the mirror, and for a second, I didn't even recognize the woman staring back. I stood there for a while, breathing, thinking, letting myself be present in a way I hadn't been in months, maybe years. That kind of stillness felt almost rebellious. And then I had this strange sensation, like I wasn't alone. That feeling you get when someone's nearby, even if you can't see them. I glanced toward the door. It was cracked open slightly. I didn't hear anything, didn't see anyone for sure, but I had this immediate jolt of self-consciousness. Like I'd been caught in a moment that wasn't meant to be shared. I pulled myself together pretty quickly, turned off the light, and walked out. Everything seemed normal. No one said anything. The rest of the evening played out like any other. But that moment lingered. Not because of who may or may not have seen me, but because it reminded me how much of myself I've tucked away over the years. How much I've stopped prioritizing my own presence, my own identity, outside of being a mom, a wife, a caretaker. It was a wake-up call. Quiet, a little uncomfortable, but necessary. And I haven't stopped thinking about it since. Story 11. My husband doesn't know who I am. Not really. And the truth is, he probably never will. He thinks I'm the faithful, devoted spouse. He thinks when I come home flushed and distracted, it's because I had a long day at work. He thinks the late nights, the half smiles, the quiet sighs are all just signs of exhaustion. He doesn't know what actually happens when I'm working late or running errands. He has no idea that there's a version of me he's never met, the one that lives outside of our shared life. The one that isn't looking for love or connection, just escape. There's something about holding a secret this big that makes me feel powerful. It's not about revenge. It's not even about the other people. It's about the rush of knowing I can live two separate lives and keep them perfectly compartmentalized. He sees the side of me that makes dinner, folds laundry, kisses him goodnight. He doesn't see the one who disappears into hotel rooms and dark corners, chasing something I don't even try to explain anymore. And maybe that's the scariest part. I don't feel guilty. I've stopped pretending that I do. I know what most people would say, that it's wrong, cruel, unfair. And maybe they're right. But that doesn't change the fact that I've built this hidden world for myself, one decision at a time. And every time I look at him across the dinner table, smiling like everything is normal, I know I'm a better actor than I ever thought I'd be. Story 12. So when I was 23, I moved to a new city and was seriously struggling to find a decent place to rent. Eventually, I came across an ad for a short-term roommate situation, just for the summer. It sounded perfect. I figured it would buy me time to find something more permanent. She was about 5 years older than me and seemed super laid back. We had a good vibe right away, and I've lived with women before, so I didn't think twice about it. About a week in, she came home from a long shift at the restaurant where she worked. I was just watching TV, and we started chatting like normal. She said she was going to shower and then join me. Cool, nothing unusual. Now she had this flirty energy about her, but I didn't really read into it. Some people are just naturally playful. But that night shifted something. After her shower, she walked from the bathroom to her room completely undressed, and not like accidentally. She looked back briefly and made eye contact before disappearing into her room. I won't lie, I was caught off guard, but I didn't want to be disrespectful, so I just looked away. A few minutes later, she came back and sat on the couch next to me. She was now wearing shorts and a thin white shirt that didn't exactly leave much to the imagination. We kept talking, and then she casually said, laughing, "Sometimes when I'm at home I like to be fully undressed. Are you cool with that?" Now I was in my say yes to life era, so I said sure. She was clearly comfortable in her own skin, and honestly, she was really attractive. Then she asked, "Have you ever tried it?" I said sure, but only in private. Next thing I know, she's like, "Wanna try now?" and took her clothes off right there. I was nervous, but I went with it. I stripped under a blanket, trying not to make things awkward. Let's just say it was obvious I was nervous. She noticed, laughed it off, and just teased me in a light-hearted way. We ended up watching the rest of the movie totally relaxed, and well, totally naked. Things didn't get physical that night, but the energy between us had definitely shifted. Over the next few weeks, this casual nudity became kind of normal between us. She'd walk around freely, and I stopped feeling weird about it. Eventually things escalated. One night, we were sitting there both relaxed, and the vibe turned a little more physical. It started subtly, just shared glances and small touches, and then one night, boundaries were officially crossed. What followed was the most unexpected summer of my life. We never labeled anything, never talked about what it meant. We just went with it. Sometimes we'd hang out like regular roommates. Other times things would get, let's say, very comfortable. My favorite moments were the spontaneous ones, like when I'd be working on my laptop and she'd just walk over and, well, interrupt in the most distracting way possible. It was fun, it was freeing, and it never felt heavy. Eventually, I found a new place, and we stayed in touch for a bit. We'd still meet up occasionally, but like a lot of things, it faded out naturally. Looking back, it was one of those wild chapters that you don't plan, but you're kind of glad happened. Definitely a story I'll never forget.